Hey, this is Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, and today we're talking about the Harley-Davidson Custom 1250. We're going to talk about what we know about it, and based on that, where we think this is going to fit in the market. Is it worth waiting for? I know one of the fans on the channel has really been dying to know more about this bike. He's getting tired of waiting on it, so I'm going to talk about what I think it's going to be, where I think it's going to fit in the market. If you think I'm right, maybe that'll help you make a decision on if this is a bike you want to wait for. Now, I talked about this bike back before it was teased at the January launch, and I said it was a Sportster killer. When I did that video about the Custom 1250 killing the Sportster, I didn't know Harley-Davidson was going to kill off the streets. Now that the streets have been killed off, we don't have any entry-level bikes besides the Sportster. Do I still think this is going to kill the Sportster? Well, I still think Harley-Davidson is going to kill the Sportster. I think this bike is going to be marketed as an option in countries like Europe where the Sportster is not available. But I think Harley-Davidson has decided that the certified pre-owned market was the way they wanted to sell entry-level bikes rather than making Sportsters. I know this is going to piss some Sportsters owners off, but the fact is it is not the best-selling class of bike that Harley-Davidson makes. And when you look at the used market, it's full of reasonably priced used Sportsters. So yeah, I still think Harley-Davidson's killing the Sportsters off, but I'm not sure this bike is the actual replacement for that. Now that the Pan America has been released, we know a lot more about this 1250 engine. Let's talk about what we know about it and where this bike might fit in the market. I did a video about the 1250 engine. You can check that out here if you want to know more specifics about it. But one of the comments is, wasn't it just an upgrade of the V-Rod engine? If you choose to watch that video, you can decide for yourself if you think it's an all-new engine or if it's just an upgrade to the V-Rod engine. There are some similarities. I do think it is a new design based on that engine, and Harley touts it as an all-new engine. So all we really know about the Custom 1250 is it's supposed to be a sleek, cruiser, powerful, and we know that engine puts out about 150 horsepower. So let's compare the Custom 1250 based on horsepower and what we suspect the weight to be, and maybe we can speculate what kind of price point it's going to come in at. So let's run through that and compare it to some of the competition and see where this thing sits in the market of cruisers. Let's start with the new Honda Rebel 1100. I just did a test ride on this bike. It's 86 horsepower, 487 pounds wet, and comes in with a 0.18 horsepower per pound ratio. Now, the next bike I would compare in this lineup would be the Indian Scout. It's got 100 horsepower, 578 pounds wet, and it has a 0.17 horsepower per pound ratio. I haven't got this video done yet, but I did an FTR1200 first ride, and I have to say I really like that bike. It's got 123 horsepower, and it comes in at 508 pounds. That gives us 0.24 horsepower per pound, much higher than the first two bikes. Since the comment was brought up, isn't this just basically a new version of the V-Rod engine? Could we say that the Custom 1250 is just a new version of the V-Rod? I mean, with a little different styling, maybe something to be a little closer to the traditional lines, but yet new performance and modern technology. If we look at this bike and compare it to the 2017 V-Rod, which had 121 horsepower and 677 pounds wet, that bike came in at 0.18, right there with the Indian Scout and the Rebel, but still less than the Indian FTR1200. Who's the stiffest competition for this bike on horsepower and weight? Well, the Ducati, the Diavel 1260. 162 horsepower, 516 pounds wet, with a whopping 0.31 horsepower per pound. Since we know that Ducati has 162 horsepower, Custom 1250 has 150, that means for it to come in on a better weight ratio or close to it, it's going to have to come in at 516 pounds or less. Now, since the old V-Rod was 677 pounds, and this is definitely going to be a lighter motor, and it's going to be a stressed member of the frame, so we're going to have a lighter frame, let's just take a ballpark guess and say 550 pounds. Maybe Harley can do better than that, but I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. Alright, so if we look at it from that perspective, The Custom 1250 is going to have a horsepower to pound ratio of 0.27. That comes in second best of all the bikes we've compared so far. What do we think about price? Let's kind of run through the prices real quick. The Rebel 1100 is $9,300. It's the cheapest bike in the list. Then the Indian Scout, it's around $12,000, depending on what kind of trim you get and stuff. The base Indian FTR1200 is $13,000. The V-Rod, when it was last made, was $17,500. We don't know the Custom 1250's price, but assuming it was a V-Rod, and the inflation, it's been a few years since they put one out, I would see this bike coming in at around $18,500. And then we have the big boy, the Ducati, coming in at over $20,000. So how does this compare if you look at horsepower per dollar? All right, let's run through that list pretty quick. The dollar per horsepower, $108 for the Rebel, $120 per horsepower for the Indian Scout, $105 per horsepower for the Indian FTR 1200 base model. The V-Rod was the worst. In 2017, it was $144 per horsepower. Assuming that price of $18,500 for the Custom 1250, we come in with a price of $123 per horsepower. And then we have the Diavel at $125 per horsepower. So really, if you just care about horsepower and cost, the Indian FTR 1200 base model is a better value. Now, is the $18,500 a realistic price? I think so. If we look at where the Pan Americas came in priced at, we look at what the estimated price is going to be on the Indian motorcycle website, where they already say that they have a price for an estimated price for the Custom 1250, and we do the conversion to US dollars, that comes in at like $21,000. Now, I'm sure there's some import costs and things like that over there. Is my assumption of $18,500 anywhere accurate? That's what I want to know from you guys. Do you think I've got any of this right? Do you think the $18,500 is a reasonable price for the Custom 1250? Do you think, I know everybody's going to think Harley should come in cheaper, but do you think they can and will when you look at it compared to the competition? If the V-Rod was $17,500, why would this bike come in a lot less? Let me know what your thoughts are on the Custom 1250. We're still waiting to hear from Harley-Davidson when this thing's going to be launched. They just said that they're going to put out a new live wire in July. We know that the Icon model's been released in May. We know Pan Americas are shipping now in May. Do you think they'll surprise us with this bike in June? Or is it going to come out at that International Motorcycle Show with the live wire and be released after that? Well, only Harley-Davidson seems to know, and they're keeping a pretty tight lid on it. Again, as always, I enjoyed the comments. Do you think I got anything right, or am I totally off base with this? If you guys like this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you do that YouTube thing, check out the content on my channel. And if you dig it, you can subscribe down below. Don't forget to ring that bell to be notified the next time I drop a new video. And as always, thank you for your support. Stay safe and keep on riding.